Welcome to This Day in His Story, created by American Heritage Worldwide, a reminder that every day holds something new to learn. Did you know that Charles Goodyear solved the molecular structure of rubber and developed the process of vulcanization by mixing chemicals in his wife's kitchen? Join us as Goodyear accidentally combined rubber and sulfur upon a hot stove, perfecting the formula that ultimately led to automobile tires, pencil erasers, life jackets, balls, gloves, and numerous other items that benefit our daily lives.
Okay, I want you to just take a second. Think about maybe 5 things you use every single day that are made of rubber. It could be, the tires on your car, the seal on a jar, maybe even the eraser on your desk. This material, it's so crucial, so dependable that we just completely take it for granted. But I want you to imagine a world, and it really wasn't that long ago, where that same exact material was a complete disaster for half the year, a sticky, chaotic mess. And the person who solved that problem, well, he sacrificed absolutely everything to find the answer.
And that's the story we're diving into today, the incredible singular focus of Charles Goodyear. He's the man who gave us vulcanized rubber. His quest to change the very nature of this material, it's been called the greatest industrial puzzle of the 19th century. He was this perfect storm of a desperate entrepreneur and really an accidental chemist.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going into the biographical accounts to figure out how one accidental spill didn't just save an industry, it fundamentally reshaped modern life. And it came at this enormous personal cost to the inventor. You're about to get the shortcut to understanding the man behind this miracle material. So to really get what Goodyear accomplished, we have to start with the promise and the eventual collapse of that early rubber industry.
When raw rubber first showed up, it was seen as a miracle, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It genuinely was. It came from this gooey, milky sap latex from trees in Brazil. And it was naturally stretchy, you could mold it, and most important, it was waterproof. So manufacturers in the 1820s, the 30s, they saw endless possibilities. Closing, boots, you name it, they saw dollar signs.
Right, so they poured their fortunes into it. They were betting the farm. But you said the entire industry was on the verge of just total collapse. What was the fatal flaw?
The fatal flaw was thermal instability. It just couldn't handle temperature changes. So you'd buy this amazing waterproof rubber coat, but it would only work in, spring or fall. And as soon as summer hit,
it would just degrade. It melted into this repulsive, sticky, foul-smelling goo. It would stick to itself, to your furniture, anything it touched.
wow. And in the winter,
Complete opposite. It would get horribly brittle. It would freeze, crack, and just snap. Totally useless. So, millions of dollars of investment were literally disintegrating on store shelves. The whole industry was paralyzed.
okay, so enter Charles Goodyear. His timing here is just.
It's desperate.
He's born in 1800, his family's hardware business goes bankrupt, and he's in his early 30s needing a new venture. And he decides, of all things, that this unstable rubber is his ticket.
And that decision was monumental because he wasn't looking for a better kind of rubber. He was trying to do what was basically, material alchemy to change the fundamental properties of the stuff itself. And he was diving into chemistry with absolutely no formal training.
So he starts this journey in 1834. He goes to the Roxbury, India Rubber Company to talk about improving the valves on life vests. But he sees pretty quickly that the problem is so much bigger than just a valve.
Right. And there's this incredible visceral description of what he saw there. The manager takes him to the warehouse where they kept all the failed products.
Can you paint that picture for us? What did it look like?
It was a scene of just total industrial carnage. The manager points to these shelves, and they aren't holding products. They're holding what are described as heaps of misshapen blobs.
Blobs.
Yeah, these were once coats or hats or boots, but the heat had just melted them into these foul-smelling, sticky masses. Their folds were stuck together forever. The room was just pungent. It was this physical manifestation of failure, and seeing that, that's what convinced Goodyear this was his life's work.
And that one scene kicks off 5 years of just absolute relentless struggle. He's totally consumed. He's moving his family constantly. New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, just desperately looking for investors and a place to work.
And we have to be clear about what his laboratory was. It wasn't some clean professional setup. He was doing these experiments, mixing powerful toxic chemicals right in his wife's kitchen.
Wait, toxic chemicals? You're talking about things like nitric acid and turpentine in the kitchen?
In the kitchen. In the most
dangerous and amateur way you can imagine. He'd mix raw rubber with turpentine, add things like lime or magnesium. And historical accounts say he used his wife's set of china teacups as mixing bowls.
No. That is just, it's beyond reckless.
It was a state of absolute frantic desperation.
And what was the cost of all this?
Yeah.
I mean, beyond the teacups.
It was devastating. Both Goodyear and his whole family suffered from the fumes. He was constantly sick. He was likely dealing with heavy metal poisoning, respiratory problems, but he was so focused he just ignored it.
And financially.
Financial ruin. He had no income, so he sold everything, furniture, jewelry.
Yeah.
And what's maybe most heartbreaking, he sold his own children's school books to buy more chemicals.
This sounds less like an inventor and more like a man completely driven by an obsession.
It was an obsession, and he had no relief. He spent nights in debtor's prison for failing to pay people. Just imagine that. You get out of jail, and the first thing you do is go right back to your smelly, toxic rubber experiments.
He must have had some glimmers of hope in those 5 years, right? Some small successes.
He had what he thought were successes, but they always ended in failure. There was this one big one. He won a contract with the U.S. Post Office in Boston to make rubber mail bags. This was supposed to be his big break.
The validation he needed, proof that his method finally worked, so did it.
No. That summer, every single mailbag melted. They turned into sticky, unusable messes, ruined the mail inside. It was another huge public catastrophe. It proved that everything he'd tried so far had failed. The puzzle was, as everyone else said, totally unsolvable.
And this is where the story pivots. From years of desperate calculated work to just one moment of sheer accident. So it's 1839. Where is he at this point?
He's still at it. He's borrowing space at the Eagle India Rubber Company. And he's still mixing compounds, but this time he's focusing more on sulfur, which he thought had some promise.
And then comes the accident that changes everything.
That's right. The story goes he was talking, maybe gesturing with his hands, and he accidentally dropped a piece of his rubber and sulfur mixture, dropped it right onto a hot stove. Just a simple slip-up.
And based on everything that had happened before, the expectation would be that it would melt into that familiar gooey mess.
Exactly, but it didn't. This time when the mixture hit the hot stove, it didn't melt. It sort of charred a little and then it hardened. He raised the heat, and instead of becoming unstable, the rubber became stable. He knew in that instant he'd found it.
So after 5 years of hell, it all comes down to one hot moment on a stovetop. But what actually happened there? What was the science?
So what Goodyear discovered, without really understanding the deep chemistry, was a process we now call cross-linking. Raw rubber is made of these long polymer chains that just slide past each other when they get hot. That's the melting. By adding sulfur and then heat, he was essentially building molecular bridges or cross-links between all those chains.
So the sulfur acted like a kind of scaffolding, just locking the whole structure in place.
Precisely. That's the perfect analogy. This new reinforced structure stopped the chains from sliding apart when hot and from snapping when cold. That is thermal stability. And that's why it was such a puzzle. You had to fundamentally change the material's molecular structure.
And even though the accident was in 1839, it took him a few more years to perfect it. He patents it in 1844, and he gives it that dramatic name, vulcanization, after Vulcan, the Roman god of fire.
And the breakthrough was immediate. It transformed manufacturing. Regionally, it put Naugatuck, Connecticut on the map. His method became the foundation for an entire global industry.
So he solves the greatest industrial puzzle of his time. He gets the patent. He should have been set for life, a revered, wealthy man. But that is not what happened at all.
Not at all. It was a combination of things, but the patent system, it just utterly failed him. Goodyear was a brilliant chemist, but he was terrible at finance, and even worse at defending his own invention. He spent most of the fortune he should have been making fighting in court. Other companies were just using his process illegally, and he couldn't collect the royalties owed to him.
So he's just constantly bogged down, paying lawyers instead of cashing in on his own genius.
That's the profound irony. He created all this wealth, but other people harvested it. He was fighting American companies, international competition. A man in England, Thomas Hancock, basically reverse-engineered it and patented it there first.
The pressure must have been just overwhelming, and his financial problems followed him everywhere.
They did. In December 1855, more than a decade after he got the patent, Charles Goodyear was imprisoned for debt in Paris, France. But even in a French debtor's prison, he kept writing his book about the invention, gum elastic, and its varieties.
It's just a stunning story of sacrifice. When he died in 1860, he was only 59. And the man who gave the world stable rubber was still under a mountain of debt. It was, what, $200,000?
An astronomical sum for the time. His personal ledger was a complete wreck. But his legacy, it completely transcends that debt. His invention directly led to durable automobile tires, which revolutionized travel. But beyond that, it's why we have dependable surgical gloves, life jackets, sturdy shoes, hundreds of things that benefit all of us.
He died destitute, but his name was ultimately secure.
That's right. Nearly 40 years after he died, in a really beautiful tribute, the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company was founded in 1898. They named it in his honor. That company and the Goodyear blimp, they ensure he's forever linked to the success he made possible.
What a journey. From a smelly warehouse full of melted blobs, through years of toxic kitchen chemistry and debtor's prison, to one spill that changed everything. Charles Goodyear devoted his entire life, he sacrificed his family's health and security to solve this one molecular puzzle.
It's just such a powerful lesson in dedication. He was relentless. And you get the sense he wasn't just driven by profit. He was driven by the intellectual need to solve the problem for everyone. It shows that sometimes the world's most lasting contributions demand an incredible personal cost.
And this brings up an important question for you. For anyone pursuing knowledge, that builds right on Goodyear's life. When you dedicate yourself to a breakthrough, how do you balance the value of what you create for the world against that personal cost or the financial reward? Is the sheer dedication to solving a complex problem enough, even if the system around you fails to protect your genius? Something to mull over as you seek out your own knowledge.
Thank you for joining us for this day in his story. May the lessons of yesterday inspire you to see God's hand today and to play your part in his story now. For more faith-based learning, visit ahsworldwide.org, the homeschool for faith and family.